So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the eFlexonics Show and the MeetUp Show. My name is Rick Holland, and we're going to leave the guest nameless, or do we name you, or
Of course.
No, of course?
Of course.
Corey Noble has joined us. Now, you see that little red line? That's my fault. We don't want red lines. Anyway, Corey, welcome to the show. Corey is a bookkeeper extraordinaire. However, she has gifts, skills, and talents and abilities that we are going to introduce. Now, your specialties are in collections as well, right?
Yes, I help clients collect overdue accounts receivable.
Now, that is a gift that very few people can do successfully. But you've got a lot of experience now. How do you do that? Step me through the process of trying to collect from a person that just doesn't feel comfortable. They don't have the money. You were going to break the show down into two completely different shows, weren't you?
Yes.
Tell me the first type of personality, and then the second, and then which one you want to work on tonight.
Okay. The first thing that I wanted to point out is that there are two distinct types of debtors. And one is the debtor that has the intention to pay, has good intent, but does not have the capacity.
Okay.
The other is a debtor that has no intention of paying, but does have the capacity to pay.
And that's a bad thing.
Yes, but they do exist. So I thought tonight I would talk about debtors that have good intentions. They want to pay, but they just don't have the ability at this point in time.
And that's actually, if you had your druthers and you had a choice of the two, this is the one that you would want to have for the client, right?
Yes,
out of the two.
Absolutely. Okay. Yes.
So step us through that process. What happens in this situation where somebody owes you money and you've gone 30 days, 60 days, 90 days? Where's the collection process in this? What do you do? How do you approach it? How do you get the money from them with your special skills?
Well, one of the things that I have that a lot of business owners, small business owners, don't have is I have a lot of experience with collections. I also have a banking background, so I'm able to provide counseling to people that are in financial difficulty and give them choices of how they can get themselves back on track again.
Well, that's brilliant.
That helps.
That's brilliant.
That helps, yes.
Instead of somebody just phoning and say, I want the money,
yes,
you guide them through a process of choices.
Yes.
So it doesn't embarrass them as much, and you care for them. You
Yes.
care for the people that owe money.
Absolutely.
But that's almost unheard of in this industry.
It is. It is. It's a rare thing, but it's one of the it's one of the top priorities is to treat everyone with respect, everyone, and regardless of how they're treating you.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the key.
And always remember that this is a business transaction we're talking about. It's nothing personal. They didn't try to personally scam you.
Yeah.
You know, these are people that really want to pay their bills. And just find themselves in hopefully temporary difficulties, whether it be health issues or temporary loss of employment, economic downturns for some small businesses. They suffer from that. So yes, it's having empathy and realizing that, you know, to tell someone, I want the money now, it's not going to work if the money is not in their pocket.
Yes.
You know, you have to sit back and say, okay, you know, ask the basic questions. What happened to bring you to this point? You know, when do you expect to have it fixed, you know, to be on your way to recovery? How do you plan to do that? And, you know, how long will I have to wait? Like, give me a date.
You must have a high recapture rate for your claims.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
But that's fantastic. So the first one was, and let's review. What was the first question again that we just went over?
The question for...
That you posed to the person that owes the money.
What happened to,
What,
you know,
okay, so
yes,
the first
that
one
brought
is
you
what
to this
happened to
point.
brought you to this point.
Yes.
So it's disarming them. It's making them feel a little bit comfortable. It's making them open up. So they talk to you. It's establishing lines of communication, isn't it?
Yes.
And that's very, very important because
It
I tell
is.
you what, I have to admit, I've been on the receiving end of a collection agent,
Yeah.
and it wasn't pleasant,
No.
you know,
No.
and they shut you down real quick. Like they are aggressive to the point where they're almost harassing from the very first call.
Right.
Okay, so the first one rule we've done. What was the second one that you mentioned?
The second one would be, what are you doing to correct the
Okay,
problem?
good. Again, that's guiding them.
Yeah.
And then when you pose those two questions together, what kind of reaction do you usually get? Do they take an audible sigh? Do they relax? Can you tell that they're relaxing on the other end of the phone? Or how do you gauge their tension over the telephone?
Yeah, most people will come back and say, you're the first person that's shown any interest in my circumstances.
I think
You're
that's
the,
fantastic.
that you listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And that's important because, if a young woman says, I'm a single parent, I've got a child, I'm living on social services or whatever right now, you're not going to take food off the table.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That's being ethical and considerate. And so, yeah, so you got to find out the circumstances. You got to find out what they're doing to correct it or to improve.
Yeah. But this is a
How
journey.
they're going to go about doing it.
This is a wonderful journey that you're taking them on.
Yes, but the system will demand constant contact. If you said to me, Corey, I owe you some money, but I can't pay you right now. I don't know when. Then I would say, I'm going to check with you in a month. I'd like for you to call me on this date in the morning. Right?
So
Set
you
it
give-
specifically to update me as to what's happening in your life.
So you give control back to them a little bit, right?
Yes, because then if they don't call, if you, Rick, did not call,
Yeah.
I've got a diary note made for that afternoon.
There you go.
And I'm calling and saying, I'm really disappointed. You said that you were going to call me.
So you've established a real human connection.
Yes.
And that's what's missing. Question, Corey. Can you or do you ever set up payments?
Yes,
Really?
absolutely.
See,
Yes.
that helps too, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah. Yes, if you have a lump sum, let's say you started a business and it didn't succeed, and you're left with a bunch of accounts payable from your business that you're personally liable for,
Yes.
and you've gone out and gotten yourself employed. So you're making enough money, you can make payments. You can't pay the lump sum, the whole thing, but you can make payments. So yeah, that makes sense.
And do you charge them interest at that point, or is it?
No.
Do you give them a break and just say, you know what, we're just going to chop it into 12 payments or whatever, and we'll just
Interest cannot be charged unless you've agreed
okay.
to that interest, unless when you obtain the debt, you actually sign something agreeing that there would be interest charged if you didn't pay by, within 30 days.
Kind of like a credit card, like 2% a month or some dumb thing like
Yeah,
that.
well, you signed for a credit card, right?
Yeah.
So you agree to pay whatever the interest rate is that they plan to charge you at any time in the future. But a lot of small businesses don't have credit applications set up. And just because you get a statement that says, 2% per month is being charged until you pay, if you didn't sign for it, you don't have to pay it legally.
So over the years of your experience, you have created this wonderful system of reclaiming lost or bad debt. How long did it take you to put this system together?
Oh,
Was it a long
goodness.
time?
Well, I worked for a major bank, so that at that time that was part of our job. Besides lending, we also were involved with the collecting. So we had all kinds of seminars and workshops and training sessions, with the bank. And then I worked with a collection agency in the last few years, and it was a unique agency, treated everyone with respect, owned and operated by another banker. So yeah, it was more of a learning experience.
And
So
you loved that job?
I did. I did.
So you
Yes.
took your corporate training at the bank
Yeah.
and you combined it with the
Yeah.
the ethical. your your
Ethical.
bookkeeping is ethical bookkeeping,
That's right. That's
so you
right.
combined it with this wonderful skill that you
Yes.
brought, skill set,
Yes.
and there's where the magic potion came together. Yeah?
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes. Yeah.
So do you know how much your reclaim rate is? Do you have any idea? Like,
Me personally?
Yeah.
No. No,
but it's
I
high.
wouldn't be
I would
able.
imagine it's high.
I was, when I worked with the bank, I was noted, I was sent to branches that needed collections.
No kidding.
Yeah, they were in bad shape.
You were a troubleshooter.
Yeah. So I became known as
Collections
someone to,
troubleshooter.
yeah.
Did you have to train other people as well?
Yes, I did, yeah.
So it's often been said that if you learn something, the moment that someone knows that you learn something is when you can teach it, right?
Maybe.
If you've absorbed it, you understand it, you've got a system.
Not everybody is a teacher.
Well, no, but you can
Yes.
probably teach somebody else to do it. You know,
Yes.
kind of replace your job, work yourself out of your own job, right?
Yes, yeah.
So that's where it
Yeah.
comes from.
Yeah.
So we've got, so is it only the 4 steps that you mentioned, or is there something more? Are there any, before you make that first call, and say the small business owner gets aggressive with that person and it's ticked them off, you come in and can you repair that relationship?
I think I could, yes.
'Cause that's very
I do.
valuable stuff.
I do. Because most small business owners, they are personally involved. It's their business, it's their baby that they've nurtured and grown for, a few years. And a lot of times in communities like Abbotsford, everyone knows everyone else, and so a lot of the accounts that are outstanding, the owner of the business probably knows a great many of them, especially if they're other business owners.
Sure.
And so it becomes a personal issue, and their emotions get involved.
They can get supercharged.
They're disappointed that
Yeah.
this guy that owns the business down the street hasn't paid them. Like, why? We've been dealing for years. Why
Yeah.
hasn't he paid me?
Sure.
And so they get upset, and the phone call kind of goes sideways. Right?
Have you, this thought just came to mind, have you ever had an opportunity where if you're a small business owner and another company is buying your services, would it be a smart idea to suggest to them to go out and get a loan from the bank, and then that way you don't have to deal with it? Let them do it, the collections? Or is that a safer way? You're going to get your money. If they go to a bank and get a loan to pay you,
Yes.
does that ever work? Does that work? Can it work?
Well, yes, it can. The lending institutions have constantly said there's no reason for businesses to operate their own accounts receivables anymore.
Really?
Well, between credit cards and operating lines of credit that they can get, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what happens is you get into situations like the construction industry.
Yep.
Somebody calls up someone else and subcontracts this and subcontracts that, and pretty soon you've got all these subcontractors that are owed by the contractor, and they're all accounts receivable. So the contractor maybe is up to his limit on his operating line of credit at the bank. Who knows?
Right.
It happens.
Yes.
Until he gets paid by the developer who's developing the...
So it can get pretty complicated pretty fast.
Yeah,
can't
so it just, it's a domino effect coming right down to the smallest subcontractor on the ladder, right? And so yeah, they're all looking for their money, and they go to the bank. They can't get it because they don't have the security, or there's many reasons,
Many
factors involved. The thing that once they're in the situation where they've got the outstanding accounts that they owe, a suggestion can be, do you have a family member or a friend that would cosign for you, would back you up?
There you go.
If you believe the future looks good, and you will be, getting the money in the future to pay, is there anyone that knows you really well would co-sign for you so you could pay everybody else, and your credit rating would not get damaged?
Sure.
While you're waiting for someone else to
Someone
pay
else to
you.
pay you.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I have another question. If you're set up in a small business and somebody owes you money, would it be advisable to, okay, so you expect money and they didn't pay it, at the beginning of the contract or the beginning of the business transaction, is it a good idea to get their credit card number and say, well, you know what, if you miss a payment, we'll just put it on your credit card? Does that work? Can it work?
You could do that.
Yeah.
That's
Would it
getting
be
a
helpful?
getting a credit application.
Well,
from
no,
them.
say they have an existing Visa or MasterCard, right?
Right.
At the beginning, and you say, okay, you're going to pay with a bank check, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that bank check bounces on that particular account.
Mm-hmm.
Could you set up, before you do any business with that business, could you say, okay, you can give me personal checks or corporate checks,
Yeah.
but I also need, as part of that agreement, your Visa card number or your MasterCard number. So in case one of the checks bounces, I'm not left in the lurch. Then I can take some of the payment or half of the what could happen is we could carve out a payment structure right then and there.
Mm-hmm.
So would that be proactive, do you think? Could that work?
It could. I believe a major department store did that a few years ago.
Oh, did they?
Whenever, it was before debit cards were widely accepted, I guess, when checks were still being taken. They would have you sign the back of the check. They'd ask for your Visa card number.
Right.
And they would put it on there and put this stamp on it that
yeah.
said, we can charge it to your Visa card if it's returned.
There you go.
Checks are not, they're not accepted now like they used to be. It's a very few people, especially younger people, they don't carry checks.
Yeah.
They don't even know how to write one.
Yeah.
No, they don't. So, they expect a machine to be put in front of them and either their debit card is used or a credit card is used. But yeah, if somebody gave you a check, you could. Well, you want identification.
Of course.
So that would be, you'd say Visa or MasterCard and your driver's license. And, then you could ask. You could have a form made up that says if your check is returned, you just fill in the blanks.
Hey, that's a good idea.
We can charge it. If the check is returned, odds are they're probably at their limit on their Visa account anyway.
Yeah, you know what? That's right.
It's possible.
And it's tricky to approach people when they're walking on thorns as it is.
Yeah.
And they're embarrassed and they're
Yeah.
down to their last cup of coffee and they're eating macaroni at home.
Yeah.
They don't want to answer the phone. They don't want to talk to anybody. They're kind of shrunk back into their shell and they just want to crawl under a rock and hide
Yeah.
until everything's done better. So
Well, then you get to leave a telephone message that says, give me a call. I'm hoping I'll be able to help you out.
see, that's nice. I mean,
Yeah.
collections can be hard. You just made it personal. You just made it easier for them to communicate with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So I think that's the probably the winning formula that you bring to the table.
Yeah.
And I think that, okay, so I have another question.
Mm.
You could go into a business and you could actually train their staff or the owner
Yes.
your system.
Yes.
Could you not?
Absolutely.
Ooh.
Yes.
I think we've discovered a new service for you.
Well, no,
Oh, do
I
you do now?
actually, yes, that's part of my services.
I did not know this.
Yes.
Oh, how come you didn't
Yes.
tell me that before?
I just did. I did upstairs. I told
Did
you
I?
that. Yes.
That you train people to do this?
Yes, I will go in and, when you're showing someone how to set up a system to collect overdue receivables, then you're training them on how to do it properly. Most people really have no idea about, one of the things is consistency.
Yeah.
You must be consistent. If you phone someone today and then throw it down and a month later look and say, oh, gee, they haven't paid yet, and call them again, it's not consistent. You have to make a plan when you pick up that account receivable and say, okay, I have to make contact and I have to keep at it until I do make contact. And then if I have to make a diary note to make another contact or to receive money, I have to be consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, maybe some people are just, overworked and they really don't have time for it. But that's really, really top priority, to be consistent.
So you can give them two choices in your system. You can either do it for them
Yes.
or teach them,
Yes.
or a combination of both.
Yes.
You can come in there for a couple of months. You can do it hands-on.
Yes.
And then for a month you can teach them.
Yes.
Have you done a lot of that training?
I have not a lot, not in Abbotsford, but I have in the past. Yes.
Have you? You could probably get a group of like 10 small business owners together and charge them a set amount in one place, like a meeting room,
could,
and say,
yes.
you know what, you're all in not a similar business, but these rules still apply.
Yeah.
And teach them classes. I think that would be a fantastic opportunity, don't you?
Well, the thing is that it's not usually the business owners that are making these calls. It's usually their bookkeeper or their slash
okay.
receptionist or whatever,
Okay.
Those are the people that are making the calls, and they have to be able to know what they're doing. It's I can explain to the owner, but if the owner's not making the calls,
Yeah.
then that's just useless.
Who should be making these calls, in your opinion?
It depends. It depends entirely on the business. If it's a large enough business that they have a full-time bookkeeper or they have a full-time manager of accounts receivables or whatever, then certainly the owner wouldn't be making the call. Unless it was an emergency of some sort that he was called in. But yeah, it would. So those are the key people. The one usually the one when if they have a manager of accounts receivables or credit or whatever, they don't need my help. They're big enough that they already know what they're doing. It's the smaller ones, and yeah, a lot of times the owners or the owner's wife or the owner's husband or whatever, is the one that's making these calls. Yeah.
I think you have a very valuable skill. I think that your skill is needed in business because many times we are so used to now emails and Facebook and Twitter and the impersonal touch.
Yeah.
No one does the hello, listen.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk to you and I'd like to give you options.
Yeah.
And this is real. This brings the humanness back into the business. And I think what you're doing is extremely important.
Yeah.
What it does is it grows goodwill.
Mm-hmm.
It sets people at ease.
Yeah.
It actually makes you want to do business with that business again and again.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you're going to get treated well.
Yes.
One wrong move or one wrong word said in
Yeah.
harshness in a collections call
Yeah.
can really put your business in jeopardy from
Yeah.
that customer.
Yeah.
And then they'll tell 10 customers.
Absolutely.
But if the collections are handled correctly,
Yeah.
they'll tell 10 customers about the good experience that they had.
Yes.
I have
Yeah.
really enjoyed this podcast. Have you?
Oh yeah.
It was pretty simple, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Pretty fun, huh?
Yeah.
Nothing
yeah.
to it.
No.